MMA. But let's find out if he can tie things up here. Spawning in the top right position as the Red Zerg player from Team Millennium fell to the Proxy Reaper on Blood Mist. Can he even things up on Whirlwind? It is GosWser. And spawning in the bottom left position as the Teal Terran player from Acer, it is MMA. Did GLHF with the ellipses. GosWser's like, good luck. Have fun, you cheesy bastard. And I mean, I can't blame him. Blood Mist is a really small map. Terran proxies were notorious in Wings of Liberty on the earlier maps where they were so small. You almost had a proxy barracks every single game. And even then, some of the maps were so small that you could 11-11 from your main base, and you would actually be closer than most proxy locations on other maps towards the end of Wings of Liberty, such as Entombed Valley. Kind of crazy to think that Entombed Valley is a legacy map these days. But Whirlwind, much more favorable map, much more practiced map. Of course, Whirlwind is one of the ladder maps. Has a very, very large rush distance. So even though the third base is a little bit exposed to certain counter-attack areas and drops, it's quite defendable if you can scout the aggression coming your way using these air pockets throughout the map and just keeping an eye on things. But GosWser throwing down that fast hatchery. MMA will go for the fast command center himself. And the expansion is very closely timed. The hatchery, a 15 supply hatchery only goes up about 10 seconds faster than a 14 supply command center. So we will have to see. This game obviously looks very different to start things off here. Spawning pool for GosWser. He's not going to do anything crazy like a blind 3 hatch before pool or 3 pool before hatch. The ultimate metagame is when you build more than one spawning pool. But there's the barracks follow-up as well as the gas for MMA. This is super standard. As far as Terran versus Zerg goes, nothing really unusual. And by that I mean, yeah, it's just what everyone does. So, gas mining is about to begin for MMA. And while we have a little bit of downtime to kill here, I just want to review a little bit of information for you guys. On the Russian Starleague, currently where we are, this is Season 5. If you're wondering why you haven't seen me do too much of it, I was out of town for DreamHack as well as the last MLG, so I miss a lot of them. I think you guys had some of those games brought to you by Caldor and the ESL Taiwan guy. But currently our qualified players for the playoff stage, which begins on Monday, are Starleague, Supernova, Rhett, Jim Credible, Startail's Life, Liquid Hero, Scarlet, Symbol, Bomber, Bordix, Lucifron, Bly, Slivko, and Daishi. The final 2 players will be decided today for the RSL playoffs, of course. This group featuring, of course, MMA and GosWser, but also featuring Hyun from Quantic Gaming and Huck from Evil Geniuses. Basically, the top two players advance out of the group. The bottom 2 are eliminated. So the winner of this match will play the winner of Hyun versus Huck to find out who the first advancing player will be. And yeah, we've had a lot of really, really awesome matches. If you want to see some of the players that were eliminated, those include players such as TLO, Thorzane, Pult, QXC, White Raw. And sort of like a lot of really good players coming in here and competing. It's been a cutthroat competition. I think one of the cooler aspects is that we have had a lot of these community maps that we threw in here. One of them actually ended up winning the Team Liquid map contest, Frost. If you guys are familiar with that one, it was actually in the latest MLG map pool, and was also, yeah, it's also going to be in the ladder pool for Season 3 ladder season, I believe, since it did win that map contest. And as far as this game goes, MMA is going to go for a fast third command center with drops. So I like this play a lot. He's building this tech lab. It could actually just be Hellion Banshee play, something that's kind of fallen out of style, but is still actually very effective because pretty much a lot of players in Wings of Liberty started to lean towards these Hellion Banshee compositions towards the end of Wings, just because 3cc builds became so popular that a lot of Zergs were going for very aggressive styles with Roaches, with Banelings, Zerglings. And as we can see, GosWser taking a rather late third base. He is going to open up with 6 Roaches. Now, if he makes any more than 6, it's 100% going to be a big aggressive push. 6 is the most you would make defensively. And right now, these Hellions will be able to scout them. But the Banshee play sort of arrived as one of the ways that players wanted to use to deal with this, because obviously the Banshees can shoot down at the Roaches and they can't shoot up. But the Hellions are actually going to dive straight in. GosWser's drones are stacked up quite tightly here, and these Hellions doing their line of fire damage. Kill a couple drones, not a crazy amount. That could have been a lot worse for GosWser. MMA only snags 5 kills there. But these Roaches are defensive. He doesn't have to worry about a big counterattack. These Hellions will run into the third base. MMA is not afraid to just throw these Hellions away. They're not effective versus the Roaches, which means pretty much in a couple minutes' time, these Hellions will be completely useless garbage, which is why he's throwing them away. He doesn't really care. He just wants to inhibit the economy of the Zerg player as much as humanly possible. Well, that Hellion barely gets to 2 hit points. But now the Banshee is on the field, and we're going to immediately see a Viking follow up. The Banshee is purely for defensive purposes. It takes 6 shots for a Banshee to kill a Roach, takes 2 shots for a Banshee to kill a Zergling or a Baneling. So Banshees are pretty good defensively versus a lot of the early aggression that Zerg can bring. And behind this, MMA is switching into a standard setup. We do have a Tech Lab factory. I'm curious if he's going to go for some early defensive siege tanks. He's recognizing that GosWser has opened with Roaches. He doesn't want to expose himself to any sort of risk of being killed off by a large Roach timing. We do have the Roach attack upgrade coming in now, as well as a lair. So what GosWser is going to be able to do, once the lair completes, he can start Roach speed, he can start a Hydralisc stand, he can get a Spire too if he wants, or an Infestation Pit. Some players do prefer to go for the Roach Hydralisc Infestor style. This Banshee won't be able to do any damage. There is the Spore Crawler here with the Queen. Gets off maybe a drone there, and there's the Roach speed starting up. The Armory is beginning for MMA, of course. This is mostly going to be for the 2-2 upgrades. Not really going to see Hellbats. Hellbats aren't really that strong versus Roach Hydralisc based compositions, unless you can drop literally like 50 of them onto the army, but then they kill anything. So, third base has been landed for MMA. As far as economy goes, 58 SCVs to 73 drones. This is a nice position to be in for GosWser. He hasn't really had his economy hurt too much. He lost the five or so drones earlier, and then he lost maybe a drone here or there. But it wasn't really anything crazy. He's not in some sort of position where he's taken so much economic damage that he has to do what he did in the last game, which is get forced into an all-in position. But MMA does have the mules to try to even out the worker count, so it's not really like 64-ish. And actually MMA is really just cranking out the workers. Now that you just look at it, just shot up by like 6 in no time. So he has really been punching his economy, and now he's I'd say he's ahead on workers now because he has the 3 mules. So this Overlord in the main will get picked off. MMA wants to be wary of something potentially like a Nidus Worm. In fact, we'll likely see him put a supply depot on the right side of his main so that he can spot for anything. But now GosWser is moving out with a lot of Roaches. We do have the 1-1 about to complete. We do have a Baneling nest on the way, as well as a Spire. And this Banshee is going to come out here and spot this. So what GosWser is going to be able to do, he wants to force a liftoff on this, basically just prevent that base from being securely taken. And MMA is going to abandon ship. He lifts off the command center. He pulls all of his SCVs home. And here GosWser wants to press in anyway. There are 3 siege tanks. GosWser cannot break this position right now with these forces. And the Banshee can still poke away at these units forever. I don't even think we have a Hydralisc, and a drop does hit at the same time. The third base of GosWser, and he's going to pick off a couple of Roaches, potentially could get some drones. These Zerglings are trying to come help, but they don't have any attack upgrades. They don't even have the speed upgrade, and they're not going to be able to do really anything at all. This command center does land, but GosWser leaves behind enough Roaches to deal with this. The Bile Forces are streaming in, and he will be forced to back away with these Roaches. MMA secures his third base once again. And in all honesty, he didn't take too much economic damage. At this point, as a Terran player, you don't really need more than 60 SCVs. 60, 65 is the sweet number to hover around because you do have the 3 mules. But Mutalisk production has begun for GosWser. What are MMA's defenses as he continues to move around with these drops? I still love this Viking. It has a couple of kills, been flying around the map, picking off Overlords that have been spotting for units. But yeah, MMA is going to move in with this drop. Does a bit of poking, will retreat. He sees the Mutalisks. What does he have to defend? No missile turrets in the natural, no missile turrets in the main base, and no missile turrets at the third. He will try to get some static defense up soon. And this medevac is going to get picked off. Unfortunately, it was full of Marauders, so unloading it wouldn't really have done anything. Viking grabs another Overlord. And as we can see, the creep spread also from GosWser has been quite inhibited. His total map vision, not really that great. There's a lot of dead, dark spaces on the map. And MMA actually has a good bit of map vision. He has a couple of spaced out Marines to check for any kind of attacks coming in. He does see these Mutalisks trying to poke through, and they might pick off this Banshee. A nice grab there. He wants to get the... He really wants to get the siege tanks, but now the roaches are going to push in towards the third. He wants to potentially try to snipe this base off. There are siege tanks positioned very well here, though, to defend, and the banelings are going to come in. Will MMA be able to get the split that he needs? The tanks need to target fire down those banelings. He is going to be able to pick most of them off, and MMA is going to hold this attack in stellar fashion, it seems, not taking really any damage, losing quite a bit of his army supply, but he's also killed out the majority of the Mutalisks and a ton of banelings. The resources lost tab should definitely be favoring our Terran player, and so it is by about 1,500 resources. MMA looking quite sharp in this game. Actually, excuse me, that's about 2,500 resources that unit's lost tab is favoring him in. So he is looking quite fine at the moment. And now MMA is going to start to push across the map. He has a lot of Marines. He has a lot of siege tanks. And he even has a Thor mixed in for good measure. And what that Thor is going to be able to do is prevent the Mutalisks from swinging around. GosWser cannot just try to pick off the tanks as MMA moves the Marines forward. He keeps the Thor with the tanks, and then the Mutas are pretty much useless. So... I mean, he is advancing with the Thor right now, but he needs to make sure he doesn't get caught on the creep. Here, the roaches and banelings are moving in. If he gets a couple good connections, this could spell doom and gloom for MMA, but the Marines are spread behind the tanks. The tanks need to target fire down on these roaches. There's just so many siege tanks, though. I'm not sure if GosWser can break this position, but with the Mutalisks, the Marine count is too low. The Thor was overextended. These Marines are going to try to rush in and save the day, and they will be able to buy a little bit of time here. But GosWser has really taken the steam out of MMA's push here, and I'm not sure if MMA can actually push into this again. He might try to split some of these units off into a drop, and so he will, and just try to do some economic harassment. But even with this many tanks, the Mutalisk count is high enough now. He can't just punch into this. There's 6 mutas, 3 more on the way, and that's going to be enough to just start picking away at these siege tanks if MMA isn't careful. And GosWser has managed to secure that supply lead. He does have his 4th base up. MMA is moving out his 4th command center, and this is going to be a very large point of contention. If MMA can get this 4th base up, he's going to have so much more economy, so many minerals that he can just throw into his production. We even see him adding on a couple of additional barracks. He'll be able to afford a lot of production. The Mutalisks do take out this drop. MMA scanning forward. What's he looking for? Checking for a hive. I can't actually see where he's scanned. He's going for the creep tumors here. Okay. Sorry for... Apologize for the sneeze. But he is moving in now. There are a lot of banelings. There's a Widowmine mixed in here, though, which could do a lot of damage, taking out almost all of the banelings. Now the rest are streaming through. The Mutalisks and roaches trying to punch this all at the same time. The banelings are caught behind the roaches, but there's just too much here for GosWser. And MMA has to retreat. He's switching into the Marine Mine setup, realizing that the tanks just aren't cutting it because siege tanks, quite honestly, suck in Heart of the Swarm. Takes on another nice chunk of the banelings with those Widow Mines in there. There's no more banelings left. Will he have enough to stop the roaches, though? This push is doing so much damage for GosWser. He's finally getting into that comfortable position. 31 SCVs killed. The mines, though, are giving a little bit more staying power to MMA. And most importantly, this 4th command center has landed. Planetary Fortress transformation has begun. At the same time, MMA's going for a run by over at the top side. He has a medevac with these Marines. These Marines, of course, are 2-2. We have the 3-3 about to complete for MMA. Most importantly, plus 3-3 hasn't even started for GosWser. He's only on 2-2. And this upgrade advantage for MMA is going to be absolutely monstrous. His Marines will be able to shred through these Zerglings like no tomorrow. And in all honesty, this is slowly but surely going to start to tilt a little bit closer to MMA's favor if GosWser cannot continue to secure these nice engagements, because despite the damage he's done, he has lost significantly more resources throughout this game. Drop hitting that top side base. Again, there's 2 spines on the way, but the Queen is picked off. Does manage to get the inject off, which will be nice. Of course, the larva GosWser so desperately needs to continue to pump these units out. There's the 3-3 for GosWser. 38 Zerglings in production. The Ultralisk Cavern. And the Ultralisk Cavern is where things can really start to tilt in GosWser's favor. The Widow Mines get off a bunch of great hits, picking off quite a few of those units. And now MMA is just going to shift the drop over. He wants to just continue to pull them apart. At the same time, there's a drop in the bottom right base. A drop in the main. MMA is doing what he's known for, going for a lot of this multitasking, heavy aggression. And he's really starting to chew away at the APM of GosWser. Will be able to get the hits that he needs. The Widowmine takes out all the banelings at this base. A great hit. And the Marines just poking away at drones here and there. being relentless. And oh no, these Zerglings are stacked so hard. This mine gets a big hit off, and GosWser losing more units for free here. Definitely not a fun position to be in. In fact, oh, gets drones and lings with that Widow Mine hit. These mines are just so cost effective right now. There's only a single Baneling with this composition, and MMA just wants to bait him further out into this Widow Mine, getting more Ling kills. And there's so many Marines here with no Banelings. I don't know if GosWser can break this. The mine's also able to add in so much extra damage. MMA scans forward. He wants to know if it's safe to charge up the ramp, and it is. He's going to press in towards this third base. He's going to pick off some of the Corruptors that have been popping out here, and he is just doing so much damage. Banelings are coming out. The side attack, the flank was eliminated, but now the drones here will die, as well as this hatchery. Double drop loaded up straight into the main base. The mines are going to be able to get some big hits off on these roaches. MMA tries to evacuate. He doesn't have too many mines to fall back on, but he's done more than enough damage that he's got to drop over at this top center base. He has the double drop inside the main. The infestation pit will fall. The spawning pool may fall next, and these mines are still alive, just chewing away at these units. Some big detonations going off. The Ultralisk is out, but is it too late for GosWser to take this game back? The spawning pool is getting dangerously low. It will fall. No more Zergling production is available. These Marines in the top are going to pick off the last of the Lings that are here, and these mines are still going to be able to do tons and tons of damage. MMA's drop at the top side is cleaned up, but the Spire may also die. What production structures are available? Just the Ultralisk Cavern and the Roach Warren right now. For GosWser, he has not restarted the spawning pool just yet. In fact, he can't even afford to. He's only got 56 drones, but barely any bases to mine from. The Marines pressing forward now in towards that right base. A lot of these roaches are already weak. Once his Ultralisks die, that's pretty much going to be it. But GosWser is just hanging on by a thread, using these Ultralisks to buy more and more time. The big problem in this situation, though, with the Hive being eliminated, is no more upgrades are going to be able to come in. And there's the GG from GosWser. MMA takes a 2-0 victory here in the first match of our Russian Starleague Group F. Match number 1. Fantastic play from MMA, and I really have to say that was just good multitasking. GosWser showed quite a bit of skill in this game. We saw a little bit more of what he's capable of than in the first map, but MMA is a tough opponent. That game was really, I felt close in the earlier stages, right before MMA was able to get that 3-3 upgrade advantage. And like I said, once you have an upgrade advantage like that in Terran versus Zerg, things just start to snowball in your favor. And that, that's pretty much what happens. So the next match we're going to have is Quantix Hyun versus Evil Geniuses Huck. Guys, don't go anywhere. Russian Starleague Group F match number 2 coming up in just a moment.